It is not acceptable to run communications cables and 600 volts wiring into the same pull box, even if they are in separate conduits and physically separated inside the junction box. Electrical codes strictly prohibit this practice to ensure safety and prevent interference between different wiring systems. The primary reason for this separation is safety. High voltage wiring, such as 600 volts, poses a significant risk of electrical shock and fire. If a fault occurs in the high voltage wiring, it could potentially energize the communications cables, creating a dangerous situation for anyone working with or near those cables. Communications cables are typically low voltage and are not designed to handle high voltage surges. Placing them in close proximity to high voltage wiring increases the risk of insulation breakdown and arcing, which can lead to electrical fires. Even with separate conduits and physical barriers inside the junction box, the risk of a fault transferring to the communications cables remains. Mechanical damage, insulation degradation over time, or unforeseen circumstances can compromise the separation, leading to a hazardous condition. Interference is another critical consideration. High voltage wiring can generate electromagnetic interference that can disrupt the signals carried by communications cables. This interference can result in data loss, communication errors, and reduced performance of communication systems. Sensitive electronic equipment connected to the communications cables can be affected by this interference, potentially causing malfunctions or damage. Separating the two wiring systems ensures that the electromagnetic interference from the high voltage wiring does not negatively impact the communications cables. Electrical codes, such as the National Electrical Code, or NEC, provide specific guidelines for the separation of different types of wiring. These codes are designed to minimize the risk of electrical hazards and ensure the safe and reliable operation of electrical systems. Article 725 of the NEC covers Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3 remote control, signaling, and power-limited circuits, which often include communication circuits. Article 800 of the NEC covers communications circuits. These articles specify requirements for the separation of these circuits from power circuits to prevent interference and ensure safety. The specific separation requirements may vary depending on the voltage levels and the type of wiring involved. However, the general principle is to maintain a clear separation between high voltage and low voltage circuits to minimize the risk of electrical hazards and interference. In addition to the NEC, local electrical codes and regulations may also apply. It is essential to consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector to ensure that all wiring installations comply with the applicable codes and regulations in a specific area. The electrician or inspector can provide guidance on the proper separation techniques and materials to use to ensure safety and prevent interference. When installing electrical wiring, it is crucial to use appropriate wiring methods and materials. This includes using the correct type of conduit, fittings, and connectors for the specific application. The conduit should be properly sized to accommodate the number and size of wires being installed, and it should be securely fastened to prevent movement or damage. The fittings and connectors should be listed for use with the type of conduit being used, and they should be properly installed to ensure a secure and watertight connection. Proper grounding is also essential for electrical safety. Grounding provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, which helps to trip circuit breakers or fuses and prevent electrical shock. All electrical equipment and wiring systems should be properly grounded in accordance with the NEC and local electrical codes. Grounding electrodes, such as ground rods or ground plates, should be installed in accordance with the code requirements, and the grounding conductors should be properly sized and connected to the equipment and wiring systems. Regular inspections and maintenance of electrical systems are also essential for ensuring safety and preventing problems. Electrical systems should be inspected periodically by a qualified electrician to identify any potential hazards, such as loose connections, damaged wiring, or overloaded circuits. Any identified problems should be promptly repaired to prevent them from escalating into more serious issues. Maintenance activities, such as tightening connections, cleaning equipment, and replacing worn or damaged components, can also help to extend the life of electrical systems and improve their reliability. To maintain proper separation, firstly, use separate pull boxes for communications cables and 600 volts wiring. This is the most straightforward way to ensure complete separation and eliminate the risk of interference or electrical hazards. Secondly, if separate pull boxes are not feasible, use a barrier inside the pull box to physically separate the two wiring systems. The barrier should be made of a non-conductive material and should extend the full height and width of the pull box. Thirdly, ensure that the conduit entries for the communications cables and 600 volts wiring are located on opposite sides of the pull box. This will help to minimize the proximity of the two wiring systems and reduce the risk of interference. Fourthly, maintain a minimum separation distance between the communications cables and 600 volts wiring inside the pull box. The specific separation distance may vary depending on the voltage levels and the type of wiring involved, but a general rule of thumb is to maintain at least 6 inches of separation. Fifthly, use shielded cables for the communications cables to minimize the risk of electromagnetic interference. Shielded cables have a metallic layer that helps to block out external interference. Sixthly, ground the pull box to provide a path for fault current to flow back to the source. This will help to trip circuit breakers or fuses in the event of a fault and prevent electrical shock. Seventhly, label the pull box to indicate that it contains both communications cables and 600 volts wiring. This will alert anyone working on the electrical system to the potential hazards and the need to exercise caution. In summary, it is not permissible to run communications cables and 600 volts wiring in the same pull box, even with separate conduits and physical separation. Electrical codes prioritize safety and minimizing interference. Maintaining separation is crucial for all wiring types.